Folks, welcome back to the iHealth channel, iHealth Radio, the NBC network, and really today is the podcasters channels because with me I have two of our. I have to say they're my favorite folks because I watch them, I listen to them. They're on the network. We have two of their podcasts playing pretty much all the time, everywhere. You can just tune in and listen to them. They touch on a lot of things, and they're just an awesome dynamic duo that actually really brings in a lot of value to the audiences worldwide. They tackle the topic of nutrition and wellness and just being healthy. That's under, Wellness Talk with George Batista. They tackle artists, music, and health and all the other subjects, under the Counterpart Show, which is both George Batista and John Henry Soto. So you've seen them, you've heard them, you've watched them. I have them today, and it's funny because they had me as a guest on one of their shows, but this is how we flip it around. Now they are not really the guests; they actually just the actual highlights of today's discussion because they do a lot of work. So. John and George, welcome to the show, folks.
Thank you, Hurricane. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us on.
Appreciate you. Appreciate your work too.
Yes.
I'm your fan, baby. Yeah. Listen. We have to realize something. This world of podcasts is huge, and there's more to it. I mean, I think there's the podcast piece, which is one. But I think what we're doing is a little bit more because it's more radio, TV. There's all kind of stuff that's going on. Yeah. Obviously, there's talks and stuff, but you have a mission, and both of you deliver different messages, in different, I guess, scenes. The one for Wellness Talk is specifically such about nutrition, and I know I met George the first time as a guest, and we talked about wellness, as a whole, and nutrition, his background things. And then, of course, we did, the Counterpart shows. That's another one, but that brings in you had some great guests, literally from hit series, TV series, and things like that. So you've had quite a bit artists, musicians. I mean, you name it, you've had it, and some famed names. So it's an awesome thing. Now, I love your background, dude, John. You got all those guitars. I know you're a guitarist. But here's the thing. So I'm not gonna say things about you. I want you guys to tell our audiences. Really just refamiliarize them, with, each one of you again, one more time, so we can give them a little bit of a background of your, work and where it's coming from. So Sure. Who wants to go first?
All right. Do you want to go first? You want me to do it?
Go for it. All right,
cool. Yeah. Well, thank you. We appreciate being here. Actually, one of you said our mission, and, when we started this originally, our mission was really to just kind of be in communication with George and I. We grew up together, we're cousins, and we played in the same band together. We toured together, we recorded records together, so we have a history. And he messaged me just to kind of come back and do you want to do something? He had been doing already his show. I had been doing a show, so he said, "You want to come in? Maybe we should do a show." And we didn't really know the full direction, and it almost seems like now where we are. From the Counterparts show that we started originally 3 years ago, we're now, it's kind of morphed into what we're currently doing right now, which is called the Artist Blueprint. If you go to artistblueprint.live, and because we realized that every topic, every subject that we would go into would actually go into something having to do with artistic, an artistic endeavor or some kind of a journey of an overcoming an obstacle. And it had always something to do with that. And we just thought, we kind of want to write a blueprint for artists where they can come and learn from other artists that come in here and give us their wisdom and stuff. So it's artistblueprint.live is what we're actually doing now. That's our show. And we're having a great time. I'm originally from New York City. I'm from the Bronx. I'm a musician and a filmmaker. And then I do the show with George, and I do a lot of other little things on the side. My life is just, I wake up and I just like to do creative, fun things. I have a wife and 2 kids. That keeps me busy the rest of the time. But yeah, I'm having a great time. We appreciate you taking the time to have us on. So it's awesome. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Jorge.
Hey, Come on up. George, your turn,
Well,
baby.
thank you. Well done, sir. Yeah, and obviously echoing what John said, and it's interesting because John and I, again, like he said, grew up together. So really the artist blueprint, that piece of it is kind of a culmination of everything that we've talked about and we've done through those years growing up. And it's we wanted to kind of document our journey. So the document, the artist blueprint that we have, and the show, the artist blueprint, even counterparts, all that was basically just everything that John and I talked about. The cool thing about it is that we were able to get some great guests on the shows, artists, whether it's from music, from television, and from film, just personal heroes of ours have come on the show. And you get so excited when you're able to actually talk to them and have a conversation with them. It's just incredible. So that's kind of like, again, like John said, it's kind of morphed into that, and it's become great. But a better thing, because my background, again, obviously from being an artist as well as a musician and drummer, and again, John and I played together, but also my other passion was health, because I came from an area where I had a lot of health problems, a lot of health issues when I was younger, and John knows it because he was watching me through the whole thing. And then I was able to literally handle all of it through changing my life and wellness and nutrition and stuff. So now what I do in Wellness Talk is to kind of give that back, is to say, okay, this is what I did, and you can do this too. Take the responsibility for your health. And so that's the kind of message that I bring in Wellness Talk. Now, what's been great about it is because I've been able to kind of even take that piece of it and kind of put it together with the artist blueprint of what John is doing. And now we have this entire package for the artist, not only management, not only the journey, but also the health piece of it too. So because we all know, if you're artist that is creating, you also need to be healthy, mind, body, spirit. So I'm assisting in that as well. So we've between Wellness Talk and Artist Blueprint, we have this beautiful package that we can offer people, and it's been great. It's been a blessing for us, and I just can't wait to expand it even more.
Yeah, and I guess I should have mentioned also JHS Talent Management, which is another what I actually am wearing in my background. But yeah, that like George said, we kind of morphed it all into this package for artists, and whenever I'm meeting with an artist, one of the things that I developed for JHS Talent was these phases where we run artists through these phases to kind of figure out where they currently are, either physically, mentally, spiritually, and how we can assist them in those areas. So this way they can produce content and produce their art at the highest quality, and giving them a chance to get out there and to be successful. And that's one of the passions that we have, is to really make sure that we can do that. And because we've made I've made all the mistakes you can make. So I got the background to be like, nah, don't do that, because I did that once and that totally screwed me up, So I have some experience in that, and not to say that someone else wouldn't be successful, but there are certain things that I know, going that route is just not the right route, just from the experience of dealing with that, especially personalities. So we talk a lot about that on the show, to cover as many different aspects of being an artist as we can, to try to handle all the facets that come into being an artist.
Wow, that's quite a bit there. So let's get into deep, right? Well, first of all, congratulations on really tuning up a little bit. 3 years of work. Really getting to a spot where now you're really laser focused. Now you're really going to be, as laser surgically necessary as needed for the artist world. And you're touching on something that is obviously dear to me. I mean, I started this whole thing with iHealth Radio and the iHealth channel, and then it expanded. But really, the core of it, no matter what we do, as a matter of fact, I've had these questions like, well, you're in the health. What got you into the other stuff that you're doing, and all these other channels? I do believe that everything affects health, and there's nothing in this world that is not going to affect you mentally, physically, spiritually, and therefore it is. If business does it, so we talk business, inspiration, motivation. If you're bad there, you got stress, you got stuff, so it affects you no matter what. So it's important. And the world of artists in general, it is not, a picnic. It's not a a park or just a relaxation. It's a long, difficult journey, too much stress. It does take a toll. I mean, again, and I'll defer to you guys to give us more, but just knowing that, I know for a fact anybody, any type of entrepreneur in general. I mean, artists are also entrepreneurs, and they run the
Yeah.
business, they're on this, they get managed, they got to do tours, they got to do stuff, and there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of stress, and there's production, and you got to so you got videos to make. It's a lot of work, and that
Yeah.
stuff, long nights. I mean, I know, for example, in the movie world, a lot of the scenes are done at night. Typically, that's where the streets are empty and things like that. Early day, early on, sometimes it's a long journey to
Long
shoot.
day.
It's a long day that you have to shoot, no matter what the circumstance. I mean, my only experience was actually in the movie as an extra, and it was one of the well, it was a 3 day shoot, but the one day that I remember was the coldest
Oh,
morning.
wow.
It was one of those days that the temperature was like, I think, in the teens, and we were out there, and believe it or not, I mean, some of the one of the best actors you can have was right there,
Wow.
Denzel Washington. And he, I mean, the guy was acting. If you see him in the movie, you can tell that you think that it's summertime. That day was so brutally cold, it's not even funny. So I
Wow.
can see it's very difficult for them, and of course you got the pressure, you got the paparazzi. I mean, we can name all the different factors. Now more, and we can talk about that. But really, that's so. Your mission really is to guide people that are in the movie world, the musicians, and all stuff, to balance and maybe get a guidance on how to better supplement themselves, eat well, do all the things. And also, from like as you stated, John, you've made some mistakes, and we all have done that in our
Mhm.
paths. So sometimes it's easier to just say, "Hey, don't go that route. It's not good for you." So
Yeah.
I admire the fact that you've gone to this. And there's one thing that I wanted just to highlight is that you said we did 3 years, and finally we got to this, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, this is my fourth year too,
Mhm.
and I can tell you, it when you start with an idea. You know what you want, but you
Yeah.
don't figure out exactly what it is.
Yeah.
You work and you tweak, and then you start seeing angles, and you see more and more and more. And as you go, it kind of like just keeps expanding. I mean, I'm telling you, like you and I, John. I mean, there will be movies coming on the NBC network, and John, I think both of you guys are going to be probably in the project, and so we'll talk about that, you and I, on the side, after the show. But the fact is, it's that kind of thing, and there's more that we can be doing,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
really the project I was referring to you, John, is something that's really going to be health, physical, mental. I mean, it's going to be a nice little thing that's going to help, throw things, but it will have a health, angle to it. So it's an important piece. So I love that. And George, I think your angle from what you said, the experience for health and what you do. I mean, your shows are. I listen to you. I follow you. I share your stuff because I
Thank you.
do believe you bring in a lot of real stuff that most of us may not know about in the
Right.
supplement world. I mean, supplement world is you can buy supplements anywhere,
Mhm.
right? I mean, some are, we don't even know what's in them.
Right.
True.
You've gotten some true experts that actually in some top name brands, out and discuss with them. You've covered a lot of the things that we need in our, daily nutrition. I mean, so it's a lot of stuff that you guys are doing. You've had 3 years of quite a bit of shows, and I can tell you, I mean, again, you're playing on and on, and you're not going anywhere unless you stop, being with me. But I don't think that's the case. I'm your platform, and one of your platforms. And you know what? I love the work because again, you meet our mission, at the NBC network here. So I wanted to just to highlight, how important this piece and how that health component is going to be just crucial. I
Yeah.
also want
Thank
to,
you.
congratulate you, John, for the talent management, piece that you're doing. I know recently you've announced it, and now you guys working on it. So that's a great piece there. So again, thank you for sharing those things. So now let's talk about your last 3 years and some of the biggest highlights you've had, because I've watched some of those, and I love what George said. Like you've met some people that you actually admired in the movies,
Yeah.
and you had them on your show. That has to be one of probably the best pleasures you can have, when you actually, are facing them and talking to them.
Yeah. I think, and just to go back a second, we were talking about the artist, the artist blueprint, because I always, when we talk about this a lot, anyone that creates something is an artist. If you're working in an office and you're creating a spreadsheet to calculate something, there's a certain artistic creativity that you can apply to that. So we don't look at just artists the way we kind of view artists as musicians and filmmakers and, you know, and those kinds of things. We kind of look at the individual, that the creative mind that can put something out there that wasn't there before. So there's a creativeness. So we always think that there's artistic in that. As far as our show, you know, the highlight, I mean, George and I talk about this, you know, George and I, we grew up in the Bronx, and, you know, we're Puerto Rican, so we're eating food that's probably not the best, but it tastes amazing because it's the best food.
Love it.
But somehow, yeah, but somehow we for some reason we're really interested in getting healthy. So we would read you know, fitness magazines. We would work out. George had like bought all the equipment, and we would lift weights, and, you know, just teenagers just like lifting weights and stuff. And we would have posters of Lee Haney, you know, 8-time Mr. Olympia on the wall, you know, on our wall. We'd get the magazines whenever he was on the cover, and he was always on the cover. And we would just read the articles and everything. And then one day we actually got to have him on the show. George just stab in the dark, just like asked him, and he said, yeah, sure. And then we were like, wait, what? So it was like, that was like one of our idols. I mean, somebody that we were just always obsessed with. And boom, there he is on our screen talking to us. And even now I still have his number and stuff, and we get to text every once in a while. And it's just an incredible thing. And so podcasting, and the idea that, you know, what we were talking earlier about the 4, you know, you have 4 years in, we have 3 years in. And I have another year extra added on that I was doing some stuff on my own. So there's you know, thousands and thousands of hours and of just learning and trying to figure it out. The key thing is that we never gave up, you know, and we're still developing. We're still trying to streamline what we're trying to do. So that's really the main thing for us. And so the highlight for us, you know, just to answer your question, was, you know, Lee Haney. We had who do we have? Steve Smith, the drummer for Journey, you know, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame musician. We had on I don't know, Kenny Aronoff, Kevin Eubanks, who was a guitarist for the Tonight Show for like 18 years with Jay Leno, and he was so great. And so I mean, and there's just tons more of incredible artists that we've had on. And I don't know George's experiences.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right. And it was amazing. And like he said, when I reached out to Lee Haney, I didn't expect anything. Okay, this was the first big person that I actually reached out. I said, you know, let's see what happens. He's not going to get back to me. I'm sure he's busy. You know, you always have that mentality. He's busy and all this. And when he answered me, he said, sure, I'd like to. I was like, I remember sending the picture to John and saying, John, look who's going to be on our show. I was like so excited. But, you know, it's interesting because in this journey, and John can really talk about this as well, especially for me, this is not something that I would have ever thought that I would be doing. Okay. Because I was extremely shy. I'm still shy to this day. I'm an introverted person. And John and I talked about it on a recent show, just in overcoming fears and podcasting and these types of things. And I had to overcome a lot of fears. My podcast started just audio. And then the cool thing was that John was already doing video. He had hundreds of guests already on his show, and he invited me to talk about nutrition. So that kind of helped me break the ice when I started going the video route. And I went on a couple of other people's podcasts, and then I said, you know what? I need to turn the camera on and do this thing, you know? And I was so afraid. I always tell John that I was a deer in the headlights, you know, when the camera would go on. It took me so long to get used to the rhythm of talking and not having so much space between my thoughts and my words and stuff like that. So, and I'm still getting used to it, you know, and then getting guests on, because, you know, Hurricane, as much as anybody, that interviewing somebody is a skill. There is a skill involved in that.
Yeah.
And I'm still learning. I'm nowhere near where I need to be in terms of that. So, but I've come a long way. So the fact that my journey has been, and one of the things that we talk about in the Artist Blueprint is that journey, overcoming that fear that says, wait a minute, nobody wants to listen to me. I don't have a degree in nutrition. Why would people want to listen to me? Wait, why should I interview somebody who's got 7 degrees, which I did recently, and I have none? Who's going to, why would they want to talk to me? So overcoming those barriers and fears is all part of this process. And again, since John and I are learning all this, and I'm learning this big time, especially, I think that also translates into how we're sharing the information back to people. Because again, this is something that we've experienced. So experience is kind of the best teacher sometimes in this instance. And I think it's worked so far.
Ooh, well, yeah, I have to say, first of all, George, I interviewed you and you interviewed me, and you know what? You're doing great, dude.
Thank you.
Whatever you just stated here, there's no way someone can even take it from those two shows. Because when I interviewed you, were so comfortable talking about nutrition and stuff and wellness, and when you guys interviewed me, you were just a natural at it. But you're right. I mean, it is a journey. I can tell you the same. When I started, my first shows were just me and talking about the stuff that I know, which is sales and leadership and things like that in the in my world of managed care. But then eventually you're just going to be talking for a minute, and then eventually you're going to get tired of what are you going to say? I mean, you don't want to be redundant and stuff. And then I started, okay, well, I got to do this, and I have to start interviewing people and bring guests, and that's exactly what I did. And believe it or not, my first show, I had a psychiatrist, so it was not easy, So that was a tough one, but really it went so well. And, I was curious, and I've been determined to do something in the way I do my interviews, is that I do not write questions. There are no questions. The only show that I have questions ready for, and they're not mine, typically is Climb to Your Prime with Dr. Heim, which is psychiatry. And that's a live Q&A. I get questions, and, I request questions from friends, and people send them. And basically, I just ask the questions and kind of just have a discussion about them. But every other show, I look at the content and who is, the actual guest and what the topic is. And I just become curious, just as I would be in real life, because really that's what it is. I want to learn. And I just ask questions, and I don't make it as a Q&A where it's like question, answer, and close-ended stuff. It's an open discussion. Now that's a skill I've learned in sales, and that worked for me. But you're right. Everything that you're mentioning, both guys, is it's not easy. It takes work. It takes practice, and only time gets you better at it. Slowly but surely. And again, for our listeners out there, it's funny because you said you started as a podcast only audio. Believe it or not, what you see behind me is the Podcasters channel. And the reason out of all the channels I came up with that one is because, well, there is no actual Podcasters channel. They're all over the place. I mean, they're in YouTube, they're this and that. But I wanted a place where hopefully all the podcasters can actually have a home that is basically sharing the visual with people and stuff, along with all other channels, depending on the theme. But all the shows go on the podcast channel because really they're all podcasts, so it doesn't matter what topic, they still go here. But the idea is that you're right. It's like there is an opportunity. There is a way to share to the world, and there is value. I love what you said, George, the concept that, okay, who am I to actually interview people? And you're right. I interview people that have, so much, education and enlightenment in the areas of expertise. And, you would think like I'm not even close to that. But here's the thing. My job, the way I look at it, is we are only bringing what their value. We give them an actual opportunity to share their expertise.
Platform.
Exactly. And the other thing is, we may not know. And the whole idea is we are bringing the guests to give people. I mean, I refer to the network as the informative and resourceful, network. Because really, one, it is informative. Two, is resourceful, because every one of the guests is a resource to the audiences out there. And they can link up to them directly. They promote their services, products, whatever. And then also they'll have a direct, connection with, it's a networking opportunity, but it's an actual place where people can learn. Like I make this funny joke about how, and again, there is a place for the overall media or traditional media, but there's entertainment, there is news. But there is no real expertise that you hear on a daily basis. I mean, you turn any channel, I mean, there's nothing, we don't talk about stuff. We talk politics, plenty. We talk everything else. But you're not getting a lot of, maybe you get some health shows and things like that here and there. But there's the weather channel, there's no health channel, So that was kind of like what went on my mind when I started this. And today I still realize that you're not going to be able to click on somebody if you watch them on a network, like a general network on cable. You're not going to be able to click on their picture and connect with that particular guest. They basically just come and go for like a small period of time. With the way I designed it is that. So with the way you do it is the same thing. I see your descriptions. There's always a link for your guest, how to connect with them, their LinkedIn, their Linktree. Yeah. And so you create a vibe where people can have actually a hub where they can go and get stuff. And it's just amazing. And it is not easy, to start anything. You said, George, I think, John, you said that, never give up. You don't give up on things. Mm-hmm. And that's the other thing. We don't give up. You're not supposed to give up. Nothing is easy. It's a tough journey. And sometimes you get doubt. I mean, am I doing this? Who's listening? Who's not? Yeah. But I guarantee you, John or George, your show has touched more lives than you can imagine. And that's just how it is. People around the world, believe me, I see the downloads. Downloads are everywhere. And people are listening. Yeah. Maybe not in the millions, but maybe in hundreds, maybe in thousands. But that's now. As these things, as your shows are growing further and further, you're going to get a lot more traction and people are going to listen. And it's funny, when you get to it's almost that boiling point. And then boom, it goes viral, right? And then everybody goes back to the original shows and catch on all the stuff. And like, oh my God, this is like a gold mine. We didn't know about this. But that's like everything else, right? But had you not started this, I don't think you would be who you are today. Because frankly, it changed you guys. It changed me. I am not the same person that started 4 years ago. The amount of information that you get from your guests, unbelievable. You guys are my guests. I'm getting stuff from you guys, and I've learned quite a bit from your shows. It's amazing. It's just a world on its own.
Yeah, we talk about that too, how incredibly blessed we are to have just the opportunity to have a platform that we can go and we can do this. But yeah, you don't think that people are going to be interested in your experience, but everyone's experience is completely different, and everyone's experience can help someone that has that reality with that experience. So we know that there's an audience out there that can relate, that can relate to whatever we've been through, whether you're a musician, whether you have, wellness or health issues. I mean, whatever that is, an actor, a filmmaker, a musician, we've been through those. So we have, between George and I, we have a lot of that experience in our lives that we know can help others. Once you kind of see through all that and try to rise above your own, whatever that, your negative thing that's trying to make you, bring you down, you realize that you do have value and that you could provide something, and anybody can provide something, but you have to stick to it. Like George and I when we started, we were doing Star Trek shows. We were talking about Star Trek. And that was we did 15 episodes of just Star Trek. And because we thought, well, we both like Star Trek, so let's just talk about Star Trek. And if we hit a little thing, and it's a big community, we've always been fans of that. But after 15 episodes, we realized that every single episode of that we were talking about Star Trek, we would always go into some life issue. It would always go back into Captain Kirk and Spock and whatever they were dealing with had some kind of a social impact into what we were talking about. So it would always we always just navigated away from it, and we'd come back to it. But then we realized, you know what, this isn't working. And that's where we morphed into the Counterparts show. And then the Counterparts show came about because we were fans of the band Rush, and they have an album called Counterparts, and we just were thinking, all right, let's have a counterparts. And the word counterparts kind of means things that are kind of similar, but it's the same in a way. And we thought, okay, that might work. But then we realized that it doesn't tell the audience what it is. If you're watching a show and the show says, it's the cooking show. Well, the show is about cooking, right? But if somebody says the Counterparts show and it's about cooking, nobody's going to know that it's about cooking. So we kind of realized that, and we figured, well, what do we keep going back to? Well, we keep going back to artists. We continue to keep going back to artists. And George and I have been working on this artist blueprint, which we started out with trying to do a one sheet that we can send, give people for free, that it'll give them some tools. And then it ended up being, what is it now?
It's like 89, 90 pages, something like that, right?
Like 90 pages. But so we started, and now we have the artist blueprint, Live, which kind of, it's more aligned with where we always kept ending up anyway. So but we only got there because we didn't give up.
Right.
Because we could have given up. I mean, even the Star Trek stuff would have been like after 15 episodes, nobody's watching. And we had guests on, right? Some guests that were in Star Trek and
Right.
stuff on that. But I think it's important for everyone to know that you do have a voice and that you do matter, and that people will tune in if it's coming from a sincere place, and you're bringing it, you're bringing value without expectations. People will definitely get that.
But listen to you guys. You believe in this, and you really truly from the heart. And I think that's really a big differentiator, because when you have a firm belief that you are delivering something of value, you know that it's gonna work. It's again,
Yeah.
it takes a toll because you don't see that immediate satisfaction and the response that you made, like people, because we live in a world like, hey, followers, this, that, the other, subscribers, but you can have thousands of them and maybe a few of them are interactive with you, but
Right.
but those ones that are interactive, they're basically what makes you feel great about what you do, and it's worth one person.
Yeah.
I love what you said, the idea that everybody is creative, and no matter what, and an artist, because in their own way, whether through their discussion, through their writing, through, as you said, you do a presentation, there's some skills you have to be creative to put it together
Yeah,
and play with it.
communication is a skill, is an art
Everything.
form.
Yep.
Just what we're doing right now is three artists right now communicating and trying to get a message across. There's an art form to that as well. And George, I think, has probably the best story, because I grew up with George, so he didn't have, and George, you could talk a little bit about this, but he, like he said, he was shy. I didn't think he was shy. I thought he was more, and this is just me evaluating, but more introverted in the sense that maybe he wasn't validated as an artist or as someone that was different. George and I were different. We were not normal Bronx kids. You know what I mean? We were listening to jazz. I'm listening to the blues. I'm listening to B.B. King at like 15 years. I'm 15 years old. Nobody in the South Bronx was listening to B.B. King. I guarantee you. But we were different. But I think, I was validated by my mom. My mom knew that I was different. She knew that I had some other things going on. I was the oddball in the family, and there was love there. I think when we talked, George and I think he had, and when George and I started hanging out, I kind of was bringing that in, to his world, and I think he kind of got the bug that he can do stuff, and he can play drums really well, and yeah, so that to me I think is important too.
Yeah, it just really quick on that. It's interesting because, and again, going back to being able to overcome things, because again, I come from a family, even though John and I are cousins, but the way our parents, his mom and my mom, the way they thought was very different, right? So my mother was more of, you don't do really artistic things. It's about, you go to work, you go to school, you get a degree and you work. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I'm just saying that that's the world that part of my family is used to. And that's kind of what they know. They either became teachers. Most of my family became teachers, and they had degrees and that type of thing. So my mother always thought that I would go work in the city, become a teacher, retire, and do that whole thing. But music and just art in general, because I used to draw when I was a kid. I was always creative, always creating something. So I had a voice that had to come out. But again, through those years growing up, I had to do it quietly because you weren't really, not that you weren't allowed. It was not validated in order to do that. So when John and I really started hanging out, especially in the teenage years, John was already kind of, yeah. Well, my family thought he was crazy, but his way of thinking was already, George, let's do stuff. Let's go out. Let's play. And I'm like, you know what? I do have something in me that needs to come out. I do have a voice and I do want to. And I decided, there was one day where we decided, let's do it. Let's play. Let's learn our instruments really well. Let's get a band. Let's start a band. Let's play. And my mother thought I was crazy. And even when we bought a drum set, John helped me put it together. And my mother thought it was
A
phase,
fad.
a fad, just something that he'll do that, for a couple of years, then he'll get rid of it or whatever. And 35 years later, maybe something like that, I'm still playing. We're still playing. John is in a band right now, still playing in Nashville. So, it's a part of us. So I was able to kind of overcome that and really have a nice career in music. And John and I were able to do a lot of really good things in music, but I had to make that decision to go the direction that wasn't popular, but at the end of the day, it was the right direction for me. And I think that, and again, even with the podcasting and all that, again, it's like we said, it's very difficult for me to do, but at the end of the day, I feel it inside, because when I wake up in the morning, I'm excited about it. Just
Right.
like I was excited about wanting to play music, I'm excited about doing the podcast. I'm excited about what we're going to talk about this week. And maybe I'll get some articles. Maybe we'll talk to a guest or whatever. That excites me. So if it excites you, and I always tell people, when it excites you, when you get up in the morning and you're excited about doing it, you're knowing you're on the right path of what you need to do.
And getting the job and going to work and going to school, getting a degree and doing that, there's nothing wrong with that either.
No,
But you
absolutely.
could also incorporate a podcast. You come home. George and I we do a show. We've done a show where we talk about how many hours a week we have. It's like 167 hours in a 7-day period. So if you take out how many hours you work, whether it's 40 hours, and you take 10 hours for commuting and whatever else, even when you take all the hours out of things, even going to the movies and hanging out, watching TV, when you take it out, you still have about 30 hours left to do something. And people wonder, well, where are these 30 hours? I'm like, I don't know. You tell me. It's your time. Time is the only thing that we cannot ever get back, and we can never buy it. So it doesn't matter if you're rich. The rich have the same amount of time as we have, right? So we figure if you have this amount of time, why not just try to fill it? So even if you're sitting there and you're thinking, oh, well, I have a full-time job and I have kids, and it's difficult for me. Well, there are ways, and George and I always say, message us, you know, and we'll give you suggestions. We'll give you ideas that you may say, you know what, I could probably do a podcast from my phone driving home from work. I can do a 20-minute podcast and I could just set it up on my phone. Very simple. Now you're doing it. And it's a release. It's a communication. You're putting something out in the world that really is, it's going to benefit someone, because you offloading it feels good. So hitting someone else that doesn't have that information is going to feel good to them as well. So that's something that I always think is important because it's not because I'm crazy. Yes, I was doing things. I was crazy, growing up. I'm still crazy now. I still do things that people are like, wait, what are you doing? But that it's not just that. You don't have to be like that. You can be any way you want. You are. And that would, if you have that desire to tell a story and to talk about your journey, then you should find a way to do it. And if you have to reach out to somebody like me, George, Hurricane, and to ask questions, I say, bring it on. Let's do it.
I'm listening to you guys. First of all, on the podcasting, you're right. There's apps you can literally do it on your phone. I mean, you can record and everything on the drive, whatever. And some of these apps, they can even make the sound look better and everything, so you don't have to go crazy. So there's so many options out there right now. I mean, ultimately, it's advanced. I mean, I think Podfest is just closing up in Florida this week, and that's probably one of the biggest events for podcasters. Fortunately, I guess we couldn't go. This season, maybe next season we'll be there. But the fact is, really, you guys are. First of all, I started the show naming you guys as a dynamic duo. Because that's one thing that also works. You have found, I know you do your own and George does his own, but when you do yours together, it's actually working well. I mean,
that's the most fun.
I love it, because when I watch the shows, it's pretty consistent. You guys, bounce off each other. He goes, you go, and there's courtesy, there's commentary. It's different. It's not like it's not, and one you may get stuck. The other one goes in, and that's really what it is. And that goes back even to the early days when you were a teenager. By the way, you know, I think we're all crazy to a degree. I don't think anybody out there can claim 100% that they're sane. And if they did, that's probably an indicator that I'm right.
Right. Exactly.
because the truth is, I think we all have a little bit of a little loose thing somewhere.
Yeah.
And you know what? But there is a successful trait that is very unique about people that achieve things, is that they don't follow the same as the crowd.
Right.
If you notice, everyone in history that has done something that is different, they actually came out of the ranks. They didn't stay where everybody is going the same path. They kind of go left, they go right, they deviate a little bit, they do crazy. They attempt crazy,
Yeah.
and they turn up to be genius, which is awesome, right? There's nothing with that. I mean, when everybody's running one way, maybe it's a good chance to go a different route. You never know, right?
Always.
It's that kind of thing. So it's nothing wrong with that, and I love what you said. I mean, sometimes we are raised. By the way, I was raised in the same concept, whereby you got to go to school, you got to get this, you got to go to corporate. And I did that. I mean, I literally did that. But on the side, I've always had my side things. I did, theater. I've done what do you call it? Modern jazz, dancing when I was, in high school. I've done actually music. I was drumming when I was a kid. And I've tried different things. I've been in martial arts all my life. So I'm always doing something on the side. There's always, even at work, I've always done 2 things or 3 things. I don't just, do one thing, because that's how you learn more.
Yeah.
I mean, you talked about time. That's the only commodity we can buy, as you said. Doesn't matter who, what, you have a set amount of time. When it's over, it's over. So you got to do, and by the way, it's over and doesn't mean that. You can just get hurt. You can just have health issues and everything else is gone. So you got to maximize it, whether it's through doing things. I mean, that's one of the main excuses you hear all the time. I don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have time.
Oh man.
For everything, for your hobby, for your this, for your that. I get sometimes questioned, like, where do you get all the time? I am busy. I can tell you I'm busy.
Yeah.
But I make time for everything else that I can. Now I prioritize. There are things that may take second precedence, and I'll do that. But they're just basically on a back burner. They're not, forgotten. Yeah. They're just on a place, on hold until I get to them. Whether it's a project, whether it's a follow-up, doesn't matter. Everything is different. So your dynamic, guys, is awesome. And I love what you said. Like, when you wake up, it's fulfilling. You look forward to that, the next show, and you're going to deliver something. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, to the concept of being brought up in that linear format, which is the traditional, you got to do this and do that. That's fine, but that suits a lot of people, and that's great. But if you have a talent, and I love talent management, and I think everybody's talented. The problem is we don't discover our talents sometimes because we're inhibited from even going there. It's like taboo. Right. You don't have time for that. You can't. You have to do this. And a lot of people, they do tend to regret things that they haven't done in their life. At a certain point in life, like, I wish I've done this. I wish I've done, nobody's stopping you. I mean, the only thing that's stopping you is you. And so you can say, hell no, I'm not doing what you want me to do. I'm going to do my way. And whatever that is, it could make a difference. So your program, your work that you're going to be doing now is really going to make a difference in a lot of lives, because you will highlight these things. You will cover these angles that really, again, blueprints to people, and how they can operate better.
Yeah. And regret, I think it's, you mentioned that, and I think that's the perfect, it's one of the scariest things, to get to a point in life where you regret something, and then that you have no more time. You can go to nursing homes and talk to people and ask them, do you have any regrets? And good percentage is going to be like, yeah, I should have done this or that. I should have left that job. I shouldn't have stayed at that job for 40 years, or I shouldn't have been married to that person for the 20 years that they wasted of my life, that kind of thing. And it's a scary thing, so, but I think it's scarier to think that you're going to get to that age where you can't do it now, where time is over, and have that regret, because then that's it, you're done, and game over. And so that, to me, I think, is scarier. So, and it might be one of the reasons, when I grew up around a violent environment in the Bronx, so I saw a lot of crazy things, in George too, just from just the worst of humanity, of violence. And you start thinking, if you can make it out of there, why would I not try to do things? Why would I try to accomplish something? And I think comfort is a very scary place. When you're comfortable, if you get a good job and you're comfortable, but you have other goals, but you don't want to do them now because you're comfortable and you're afraid of leaving your comfort zone to go out, nothing grows in the comfort zone. Everything is growing out there, and you have to be uncomfortable. I mean, I can't tell you, being an actor, I mean, I'm a short Puerto Rican from the Bronx, so imagine walking into a an audition room with all these people around there, and I'm walking in like, hey guys, and having to stand up there and do whatever my audition was. It's extremely uncomfortable, extremely uncomfortable, and talking to people, going up to people and being like, hey, trying to get the band booked, or trying to talk to filmmakers, or trying to cast for a film and trying to send stuff out and writing a script and then sending it out. Hey, you want to be in my movie? That kind of thing. It's very, very frightening because you're gonna get back some rejection, which is totally fine, but if you can rise above that, that goes away. Like right now, I have no, my wife can tell you, my kids, if I'm out somewhere and there's somebody there, 99% of the time I'm gonna have a conversation with somebody. I'm just always out there, and I think that just came from many years of just realizing that the fear is going to destroy. And I think George can talk a little bit about that too, because the fear he got rid of the. George is modest, what I mean, but George is like very good at what he does right now. Like he's like really, really good. I think he's doesn't realize it. There's a thousands of shows out there that I've seen personally, and that are related to wellness. And George has a really, really good understanding of that dynamic of how to interview someone with the 7 degrees. Because you're right, why should they be here? They got 7 degrees, you know what I mean? And I'm sitting here with barely a high school diploma, and they're out here, and so it's like, well, why you have to have some type of skill. You got to raise the bar to some other thing. And George does that. George does that really well.
Yeah, just to kind of a little bit piggyback on that type of stuff, it's I think for me, again, it goes back to the passion of what I'm doing, right? Just like it was music, and just like it's health. I did some sales, years ago, right, in marketing and stuff like that. And the one thing they always said, that if you are passionate about that product, it's going to come out. People are going to see it. People are going to know it. They can feel it. Right. Even if you're not the greatest salesman in the world, just your passion coming out will sell the product. Well, that's kind of, and again, not that I'm trying to sell myself necessarily, but what I'm selling really is an idea that you can do exactly what I did, because I did it. I figured it out. And the value that I'm trying to provide on the health side of things is that, you don't have to take as long as I did. It took me years of trying to figure this out day by day and getting rid of these things. I'm trying to give you a path on my end where you can take a shortcut, where you can learn these things that I learned, and you can learn them in a faster way, whether it's on supplements, whether it's on diet, what are the good ideas, the bad ideas, things that I made mistakes with, things that I'm still learning to this day. So the value that I'm bringing in is kind of like saying, hey, this is the way I did it, and this is what you can do. And to John's point as well, is that he went through so much in his life with his acting and with music as well, and that makes him the ideal person for JHS management, because he now can turn that around. And when he interviews artists for the company and stuff like that, John is very good at kind of perception. He's got a great way to have that first impression. He can kind of size you up very, very quickly. He did it with me for the last 50 years of my life. So, but he's very good at doing that. And
that sounds bad.
No, but actually it's a good thing, because he can tell if someone is really passionate about the art. passionate about being a singer, passionate about being a filmmaker, whatever it is. He can see that. And you know, and his interactions with them, and he can basically say, okay, if you were really passionate, this is the path that we're going to go. We're going to chart out this path for you. Okay.
Right.
So, you know, I think, and again, for John and I, you know, we're working separately but apart at the same time. We both have that. We both have the passions for what we do, and I think that's why, you know, we can again have this idea that people get, that draws people in to say, yeah, I can do that. I can be healthier. I can be a musician. I can be whatever. And I think that, in my view, is invaluable when you have that.
Yeah. Thank you, George. I appreciate that. One thing I was going to add to that is that it's also a listening.
Yes.
You know, it's really listening to, because I've made every excuse to myself of why I shouldn't do something in the past. So fear would make me make decisions that were based on in the fear. And I knew, because I know I have the voice in my head. Now I persevered through it. I pushed myself over it and I just pushed out of the way, but I can hear it in others. So when I'm interviewing someone, or, you know, a sentence can that comes out of their mouths can just give me pretty much everything, you know. And it's not saying that they're not talented, or that they don't deserve an opportunity, but I have to talk to them about that, because one of the things that we're very serious here with, I have a business partner named, his name is Brian Pierce, and he does all the behind the scenes banking and all the agreements and all the paperwork stuff and all the LLC stuff. But one of the things that we talk about is that we want to make sure that whoever we bring on, you know, has the values and has the ethics and has the determination on their own. You know, they come to us because they want a little more guidance and they want to kind of get to the next level, you know, but they're kind of doing it already. We don't, someone who says, oh, I have so much problems because, and problems are a thing, you know, we help them. You know, I help artists, like I mentioned the phases, we help artists, you know, but listening to what they're saying, you know, will speak volumes into what they're going to do, because it'll illustrate what they've done so far. And if they're making a ton of excuses, when you sign them, they're going to make those same excuses, you know, moving forward. So rather than anything, I address it right off the bat, and then, you know, that's how we operate here. But thank you, George, and yeah, and Hurricane.
Well, you know, I'm listening to you guys, and you touched on a lot of things. One, you talked about, you know, comfort, for example, right? That is a big problem for most of us, if not all of us. We all get to that fine, you know, moment where like life is peachy. Yeah, why do I like it's if not broken, let's not fix it, right? You know,
Yeah.
but I've been stating, you know, I have a new saying that I use now is it is time to be comfortable with uncomfortable, you know, and really, because really, if you're not comfortable with the uncomfortable, you know, then you got a problem. And life is gonna throw in things at you, and you'll be like, "Holy Nikes, you know what the hell happened to me? Because I shouldn't have done this." And you know what? You and I were talking about the movie. The movie is gonna play on this whole story. Like it's gonna be some of that in there, in the script. But the concept is, you know, you want to do something. The only way to do it is by doing it. You know, there's no like, hey, you know what? Maybe next year and stuff. Because you said like people sometimes will live to be a long age and, you know, older of age, and then they might have regret. But some people don't even get that chance.
No,
You know, I mean, many people are here and they're longer here and they haven't even started, you know.
that's right.
And so passion and believing in yourself and what you want to do is something you just it's a drive. And I
Yeah.
love what you like. I love what you said. And by the way, that's so cute. Listen to you guys, like how you gave all the credits to George, and George gave you back all the
Oh, yeah.
credits. That was good. That was good. But you know, that's exactly what it is. You support each other, and
Yes.
and actually,
Yeah.
what you're doing for the world is not just for you two. For the world is really you're creating again opportunity for others.
Yeah.
You know, setting up others for success, and again, it's a legacy. Again, one day, all of us may not be here. I mean, it doesn't matter who's on this planet. I mean, 120 years from now, there's a good chance none of us will be here. You know,
Pretty good chance.
very good, right? Well, and I purposely said 120 because I don't know how many people that are over 120, but at the
Right.
end of the day, you know, we know we're not going to be here. But what will remain is these types of discussions, is the work you
Correct.
do.
George and I just talked about that, exactly that.
It's
You know.
amazing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and true story. I don't know if I mentioned this to you guys, but if you watch some of my early shows, I had a great show with Gabriel Gerasim. He's an author, and he was like a therapist, and he was just very nice. I mean, as a person, as very eloquent, and we talked deep stuff. And he disappeared for a couple months, only for me to find out that he passed on. And so, actually,
Oh,
every December I do actually, like a dedication to his shows, and we play them on the network. But like who would have thought that, right? We were
yeah.
together, we were planning on the next shows. We had 7 shows in, and it was just great. And then all of a sudden he was gone, and he got sick, and he was gone quickly. I didn't even realize until I
Wow.
called, and 3 months later, his wife called me, says, I'm sorry, but he's no longer here. And I'm like, wow. It shocked me. I mean, I have to
Yeah.
say, it was literally like it beat me up because I mean, live is amazing. I mean, you're here one day, you're not here one day. But
Mhm.
his shows remained, his books remained, and his legacy is with us. And
Correct.
people will still listen to him. People will still get, information and
Yeah.
and real insights from him and his work. And so he still lives in his legacy with us. So and that's in itself an important piece, that if we're doing the work, money is one thing, and everybody's working for the money. And certainly if you do your passion and still can generate money from it, that's great. There's nothing better than that. I mean, that's like TGIMs, right? I always refer to as, every Monday, Monday is actually, a good day, as opposed to like, oh my God, it's Monday, right? But
Right.
so if you get to that, as you said, you wake up in the morning, you're happy, your head is up, and no matter what. And yes, you're going to get the voices. You're talking
Yeah.
about voices. We all have them.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh my God. How much more do I have to do this? When is it gonna like really like boom and stuff? It's what it is. You got to keep, as long as you're in it, you're gonna win it. The minute you stop, it's over. All your
Correct.
stuff that you did, all the work, 4 years, 3 years, 10 years, will go down the drains. But if you stay in them, in the path, it will happen. You just
Yeah.
don't look back. It's
Yeah.
forward only. Adelante, como se dice, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
I
Exactly.
got you with that one. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Um, Para adelante vamos. I think George and I, like, one of the reasons why I think we do validate each other is because we are on that journey, not just through podcasts, but we've known each. I've known George since he was shorter than me. So that
And
was, I
it's
mean, he
tall.
was, yeah, I mean, he was only two, and I was, but still, he grew, and I've known George for so long that we've been on a journey. We've played music, we've been on stage together, we've recorded in studios, we've done, so we know each other's growth. We know how we grew as people, and as we're both fathers now, and we've been married for a long time to not to the same woman, but we've been married. I've been married now for 21 years. It's gonna be. George has been married, I think, longer than that, I
Yeah.
believe,
Yeah.
right?
23.
23 years. So, we have this history, and I think, what you were just saying is so spot on, Hurricane, about, yeah, this people are gonna see this.
Yeah.
Our great 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 grandkids are gonna be like, wait, my great 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 grandpa is on this thing. Oh yeah, he's on this whatever, this machine that's stuck in your, that now is in your head or whatever. And they'll be able to see footage and be able to see us and experience and see where we were right now. And it's a wonderful thing, So that's why another reason why we keep doing it, because we know people will go back eventually and get some value off of the experiences that George and I have had on the show, and Hurricane and all your shows and your network and everything. It's just an amazing group, body of work that can make the future better and can help people in the future understand where we were at this moment.
Listen, I think people need the work that is being done by. There's not enough podcasters for the humans on this planet. I think,
That's what I always think. People say it's saturated, but I don't believe that. I don't think so. I think there's a lot of room. So let's all get in here and start
there,
start the
there is.
journey.
There is, and not everybody again can do it. I mean, they can, but it's different, and not everybody's got the drive.
Right.
And you said there are thousands of shows that are same topic, but some are different than others. It's the
Yeah.
way they're being presented, it's the discussion, it's the energy. there's so many things. And you know what?
Consistency.
And by the way, even if there are many that are equal, well, that's good. There's just more variety for people to
Right.
actually get. I'll get from you a little bit. I get from the other person. I take from everybody. You
Yeah.
know, like I said, those 4 years for me, that's like I got a master's degree, on the side because I've learned
Man,
so
we've
much
said
stuff.
that too. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, they're like real lectures. I mean, you listen to experts, as you said, with top degrees, PhDs,
Yeah.
CEOs, people that run, big corporations, millions, if not billions, and you're learning from them, their skills, their trade, the way they speak, the way they stuff. I found myself the other day literally talking like somebody I had a show 3 years ago. Like I used a line from them without even knowing.
Wow.
Literally, it
Yeah.
stuck with me, and I used it, and I realized, wait a minute, and I was just by default, I was watching that show again. I'm like, wait a minute, I just said that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that actually it was in my back mind. It was somewhere
Yeah.
in my subconscious, and it came out. You'll be surprised what you learn from here.
Oh man.
Joe, I want to just to touch on one thing you said. As you were growing in your world of artists and music and filmmaking and stuff, and audition and stuff, you didn't. That's the thing. Like a message to people watching or listening: if you want to do something, if you have a drive, you have a passion, nothing can stop you. Should stop you. You know what? You got to overcome your fears, or all the excuses in the world. They need to be removed because you can do it. And yes, you get. Is rejection part of the deal? Rejection is always going to be part of the deal. So you assume that's going to be a percentage of rejection, and the rest is history. When you talked about your idol, Mr. Olympia, it was a long shot. But guess what? You did it, right? So it doesn't matter, folks. You will be surprised what you would get if you ask the question. I don't know if I shared this with you. One time, back in 99, 96, I took a real estate course in Brooklyn. And, so I became a real estate agent. So that was a thing that I did on the side. Only in 99, I wound up buying the same school. And how it happened, it was funny because we had a company, and in the company, we had real estate components, and we were looking for space to teach, to use in Brooklyn. And so we said, well, why don't we go to that place? It has the classroom and everything. As we were talking to the dude, I just asked the question, oh, maybe we can just be partners. And he said, I'm looking for a partner. And because his other partner was sick, and so he knew that he was not able to continue with him. It's like, are you serious? They're like, yeah. Well, they signed us up, and actually, we got that school with him. We became partners. 20 years plus later, the school we only closed it this last year, but from 99, I mean, it's 20 plus
Wow.
years that existed because we asked the question. You'll be surprised, folks. What one question you ask can open the doors for you, and sometimes you don't know which question you missed. Could have been it for you.
That's true.
It's
I always ask. I know George and I talk about this too.
It's so true, and it's a concept actually that I'm even teaching my daughter now because my daughter plays high school basketball, and she's a great rebounder. She's an amazing rebounder. She's actually, she's like has records and stuff like that. But one of her weaknesses is that when she does get the ball and she has the clear shot, she doesn't take it when she needs to take it, like as much as she needs to take it. She ended up passing it off. But I always tell her, you need to take that shot when you have it, okay? Because there's an old saying, like, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take, right? You have to take the shot. And it's just like the Lee Haney story. I took a shot in the dark and it worked. And the funny thing is that I immediately said, well, if I can get Lee Haney, I'm sure I can get somebody else too, right?
Yeah.
And we ended up getting Rock and Roll Hall of Fame drummers and musicians on, and guitar players and actors. And I mean, we were getting, all of a sudden there was this, we got a whole bunch of people in a row, and I was shocked. And it was all because I asked a question. I just did it on my own. I just formulated a nice, email, and I sent it out and spoke to, and then we ended up starting to work with some of the publishing, what do you call it? The PR companies started sending us some people and stuff because they realized, hey, you guys got a good show. You got people going. All of that started from that one little thing of just asking and having somebody on and then having a good interview, and it exploded. And the cool part about it is because, and one thing you said, Hurricane, which is very true, right? It's almost like you said you almost like have a PhD from all these people. It's the same thing with us, right? The artist blueprint, our artist blueprint is not just about what John and I have done. It's also all these guests that have come on as well, because they provide their experience, their feedback, and what they've done in the industry. And we talk about their ups and downs. We talk about what adversity they had to overcome. We talk about what their message is to young people who are coming up now, and what they would tell them, and what they, what their messaging is. And, I always told John, we talked about this all the time. If you take all those interviews plus our experiences, we could write a book this thick
Totally.
of just amazing things. And it could be like a PhD of how to get things done. So again, it all starts with asking the questions at the end of the day.
Yep. 100%. 100%.
It's funny because, again, the reason I refer to it that way is because when you go to school, right, you get lectures. And you take from the lectures, and then you basically get this on lectures, and the stuff sticks with you. For the most part, you get a percentage of whatever you hear, and then it accumulates, it just compounds. Well, the same thing here. I mean, you hear this, and probably you do what I do. You watch, you listen at least a couple of times to each show, and you absorb stuff. I actually double, triple, listen to all the shows, because when I'm doing the show, it's not the same when you listen to them.
Right.
It's not the same, folks. So you kind of like, wow, you get more from it, because you're like, you're constantly discussing. It's different.
George does that. I don't go back.
Well, I always feel it's actually a good learning tool, because you look at there are things you can see that maybe you want to work on, whether it could be an audio thing, it could be some kind of delivery thing, different types of things.
Early on, I did, but when you're an actor, it's another thing also. Like I hate watching anything that I've ever been in. It's just
like my wife.
Yeah, really.
There are actors that are like that, though, right? Like big actors that are like that.
It's weird, though.
My wife does that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, for instance, like music, I have no problem. Like if I'm I'm playing something and I hear the song again, I'm like, oh, I'll listen to that. But for some reason, the show, I do listen to the clips, and all the clips that we post and stuff like that. But I think from learning, I think what you said, Hurricane, about the education part, this is a college.
Yeah.
We've put ourselves through, Hurricane went through 4 years. He's already a senior. We're a junior.
You're more senior.
Yeah, we still have a year to go before we can graduate. And then you get 4 years, and we were consistent, just like you, consistent shows. We did one show a week. I think we missed maybe 2 to 3 shows, maybe in a year, because I was moving from Nashville, from New Jersey to Nashville, and we missed a couple of shows because I didn't have any of my gear or anything. But other than that, we were consistent, and so now you have that block. That's your education. And from that moment on, I think George and I are sort of almost ready. We feel like we're at a graduating state. We might be able to get the thing and whatever, the cap and gown, and be able to get to the next phase. But we feel good about it, and I think it's important for what you're doing, especially, to be able to put all these podcasts and all these shows in one place. To kind of give them light, and also have that community, that community thing. I love that. I love that.
Listen, I mean, we have to believe in what we do, and we have to support each other. And I think there's a wealth of knowledge that's available. I believe it or not, I think that experts today, they know you can get into podcasts and listen to them and learn more than you'll probably learn from any other source.
100%.
Because you get the best of the best, la creme of la creme, as they say, or la creme de la creme, is the top notch, level of any expertise. You want it, you're gonna hear it. I mean, you go to YouTube, right? I mean, you can learn anything on YouTube, right?
Anything.
And again, these are the best of what they do in their fields of expertise. So you will learn things. I mean, you got professors, you got educators, you got teachers, you got scientists, you got doctors. I mean, you name it, in all these shows, you hear them, and you get, I mean, listen, I mean, we can go to Joe Rogan, for example, top notch. I mean, he's the top of the top, right? He's got these great guests, and again, top of, the top of every expertise. And it's available to everybody to listen to. I mean, you listen to one of the shows, you get to walk with something. I mean, whether it's in finances, whether it's in banking, whether in investing, whether in business, leadership, entrepreneurship, health, wellness. I mean, movie magic, movie acting, music, every single thing that you can imagine is available in this world of podcasting and talk shows. I mean, radio is has always been there, right? And podcast is just another form of radio, and and video actually now. So it's just the greatest thing, and you're not gonna get that. I mean, you will pay money to attend seminars in some of these educational places. You had them for free. I mean, a lot of these folks are
Yeah.
really giving information access free.
Yeah.
And it's not like they're giving you light stuff. They're giving the good stuff. So it's
Yeah.
not like,
Yeah.
you need to pay extra to get the premium package. You're getting premium for
Yeah.
just listening in. You
Yeah.
can't beat that, man.
Actually, next Monday, I'm actually speaking like this virtually to a class that's learning how to do podcasts. And there was a teacher invited me to this class. And so I'm actually speaking. So they paid to learn how to podcast, how to do a podcast. And their questions, because I've done it before in the past. And, the questions are always things that for us three here are sort of like, it's part of our, like, what do I need a mic? That kind of thing. What kind of camera should I, like really basic questions, which I think is wonderful because that means that they're asking questions that they need to get the answers to now rather than later, because
They're getting the foundation.
yeah, get the foundation solid now. What platform are you going to use? Are you going to use Zoom? Are you going to use StreamYard? Are you going to use whatever you're going to use? The mic, the camera, and then what is your podcast going to be about? Like that's a big thing. Like what's going to be your focus point? Like what's going to be your message? And then you stick to that narrative and you flush out, what you want to talk about. And the questions were really interesting. They were asking a lot of interesting questions. So I think that this is one of those things never before happened in the history of humanity that three guys could get on to a platform in three completely different locations, from New Jersey, upstate New York, and Nashville at the same exact time and have an actual conversation where we can actually provide value to an audience. This has never happened in the history of man. And we're right now living through this time. And when people think, oh, well, everybody's doing podcasts now. Well, no, because look at the percentage of how many podcasts, George and I were talking about this, how many podcasts actually start and have one episode and never have a second. It was something like 90% or something. Like they just don't have a second episode because, yeah, everybody wants to do this, but it takes a little bit of a challenge. So we don't have 20 years of podcasting. We're still at the baby stages here. It's like, and in the next 10 years, it's really going to be organizations like what Hurricane is doing. They're going to be the ones that are controlling the podcast, the show. They're going to be the networks. They're going to be the networks. People are going to, and whoever Hurricane gets that people will like to watch. If you had Joe Rogan on your network, well, your network, right? Because Spotify paid, whatever, $100 million for him, and that changed their whole game, because he was such already a powerhouse. So that's what the future is, and it's only been like what, 5 years, maybe 10, maybe 10 years if you want to say full podcasting. But back then it was like you needed a board, a soundboard, you needed big mics, you needed to record it, and then you needed to slowly upload it to some platform that'd be willing to take it and in audio form only, and now we're moving into this next phase where you can do it, like you said, Hurricane, from your phone with pretty good quality.
And just want to quick just add to that the saturation conversation is, yeah, I mean, people could say it's saturated if you want to say that, but still there's nobody doing it the way you as a person is doing it. Okay.
Right.
That's the one thing that people have to understand. Okay. There's thousands and thousands of health gurus out there for me, right? Health heroes, but I can tell you, I listen to a handful, maybe 3 or 4 guys that I've been listening to for years, right? Because those guys are authentic, the way they deliver the information, and I love the way, and I just not only the information that they give, but the way they give it. Okay. And this is the one thing that I had to realize as well, getting into this game was, and John talked about this a lot too, when we've talked about podcasting and, just being yourself. not trying to be Rogan, not trying to be Bongino, not trying to be any of these big guys that are huge out there. Just be yourself, because at the end of the day, there's going to be someone out there that is a fan of you, that likes your delivery, that enjoys the way you do it. Okay. And, just like those guys have their fans, you're going to have your fans. It's just a matter of consistently doing it, because eventually, I always talk to John. I always say that these motivational speakers out there that are screaming, right? They're like, you got to do this. You got to go out there. You got, these time, they're all great, but that's not my personality. And I really identify with those folks. I identify with the more even tones that give the information kind of just in a very frank way. And for some reason, I retain the information from those folks.
Yeah.
So those are the guys I tend to listen to. And that's kind of the way I deliver the information as well, that way, because it's just my personality. So in podcasting, I would just say my one little tip from a few years of doing it is be yourself, and those folks will come.
It reminded me of something you said, George, about when somebody, I had a question, actually, one of the questions from one of these classes. They said, well, what if somebody steals your idea?
I hear that all the time.
Oh yeah, that was the question. And I remember I said what I would say to anybody. I would say they can't steal your idea. They can do an idea similar to that, but they can't steal you. Right. You're the one providing the value. You're always going to be different. And it's the same thing with like filmmaking. You write a script and people are like, oh, I don't want somebody to steal my. Well, if somebody steals your script and they make a film out of your script, exactly, it's going to look different than if you would have made it. You know what I mean? So it's like you can be so protective up to a certain point and realize that you are an individual, and whatever you put out, it's always going to be just you. If you're authentic and you are, committed to providing a good story or a good content, it's always going to be from you. So nobody can really steal anything per se. They can try. But they're not gonna. It's not gonna come out the same, because they're not you. They're not Hurricane. They're not George. They're not John. They're them. But really, when you think about it, did Joe Rogan steal, Dick Cavett's idea? Dick Cavett was doing interviews 50 years ago.
Right.
Interviewing Jimi Hendrix and John Lennon and all the legends and stuff. So it's like, did he steal? No, it's the same format. Sitting across with somebody and just asking questions and having a conversation for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever.
All the shows, from on TV, right? All the late night shows and stuff. It's the same concept.
Johnny Carson to
it's old, style. It's always been. Again, that, believe it or not, when I started, literally, it was not even. I didn't even, believe it or not. True story. I didn't even know what podcast was. I started as a radio. I just wanted to have a radio and talk shows. And then all of a sudden, like podcast. I'm like, okay, what is this? I started looking into it. Like, okay, so this, when you define podcast, it's a talk show with either you talking or guest having a discussion. It's a debate. It's just a more relaxed format, and it's maybe not conform to what regular TV has, as the picture. Although you can have that, and so that's all there is. And so it became, what it is. And I love what you said, guys, which is everybody's got their own signature. It's your voice, it's your emotion, it's your look, it's your accent, it's all you. No one can duplicate you. They can copy, but they will be their version, not yours. Your version is only yours. And that's the other thing. And it's funny because you have, as you said, no saturation. You know why? It's like in the music. How many jazz musicians? How many, pop musicians? Thousands, if not millions, and everybody's got their own tune, their own flavor, their own voice, their own, and same thing here. Everybody's got their own, and you're right. Everybody's got a different audience, and maybe sometimes we share the same audience.
Yeah,
you're right. Like not everybody is the same. Like I may, relate to you better than somebody else, and so on and so forth. Everybody's different on what they look for, and that's okay too. It's part of that's the beauty of it. There is plenty for everyone, and there is no real competition.
No. No, there isn't. And, with music, you mentioned music. It's the same kind of thing, because every note that I've ever played on the guitar has been played a gazillion times, right? I mean, Hendrix played it 50 years ago, so there's no new notes. I didn't develop new notes. Everything has been already, all the jazz musicians have developed maybe new voicings in some way. They change things around here and there, but it's all the same stuff that we've always been doing. So it's all about how you interpret those notes. Same thing with drummers. George and I talk a lot about, I'm a big, huge fan of drumming. Like I'm not a drummer myself, but I love drumming. So we've gone to see some of the greatest drummers of all time live. And you could watch one drummer who's amazing, another drummer who's amazing, but they're completely different drummers.
Yeah.
They're completely different drummers.
I have one favorite, Phil Collins. His
Oh
just
yeah.
Phil Collins.
I mean,
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, his multi, he does a lot of things, but his drumming, man, forget
Yeah,
about it.
Yeah.
he's one of the best. Yeah, one of the
Yeah.
best, definitely drummers. And yeah, so I mean, I think that having your own voice and having the confidence to be like, this is me. This is what I am. I'm just
Right.
gonna go out and do what I do. And I've actually, this is something I do in the mirror. If I'm going out somewhere, and if I'm going to an audition or whatever I'm actually doing, if I'm getting ready in the mirror, I'll go like this to myself. I'll be like, "This is it." I'm gonna walk in as this little dude, and I'm gonna go up to people and I'm gonna be talking. And whatever happens, happens. I'm not gonna hold back. I'm just gonna be. This is it. This is what God gave me to work with, and I'm gonna work with it. So I think it's important.
Because you said something earlier as you were growing, right? You were the odd guy or the odd kid, right? But
I didn't grow, but as I was experiencing life.
all right. I love it. But that's the thing. That's your signature. And you know what? Everybody on their own, they have their own flavor, their own angle. You're
Yeah.
never gonna be like everybody else. And so,
No.
and you gotta really admit to yourself that's who you are and enjoy that personality and be different. It's okay to be different. As a matter of fact, that's what makes us, unique is that we are each one of us a different, in flavor, no matter what we do. We can do the same thing. I mean, martial arts. There are thousands of great martial artists, right? And schools and concepts and schools of formats, right? Or methodologies. But they're all great. I enjoy each and every one. I watch everything. I enjoy everything. I learn from everything. And the same thing, music. I mean, you listen to everything. I mean, if you listen to my playlist, you'd be like, "What the hell this guy's listening to?" I mean, every
I had the
language,
same problem. Not a
every
problem,
language.
actually. I think it's a blessing, actually.
I'm telling you, because here's the thing, like, well, you don't understand the words. We call it music.
Right.
It's got music is international. Maybe
Right.
the lyrics could be in different languages, but I enjoy anything. I don't care from Africa,
right.
from Asia, from India, from the Middle East. I listen from Greece. I listen to all kind of types of music genres,
Yeah.
and I enjoy them. If the beat gets me going, I'm good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's important to be able to experience all of that, and not even have, because I think we tend to put restrictions on ourselves based on what others are experiencing. So we think that we need to kind of go along with that. George and I, when we were growing up, we were listening to people that nobody else was listening to. We went to the video store. This was before Blockbuster. This is how dating
Remember
ourselves.
those street corner ones?
Yeah,
Street corner, video. What was it called? Video Castle.
Video Castle.
Video Castle. We went to Video Castle and we picked up some a VHS tape on Stevie Ray Vaughan, because I was like obsessed with Stevie Ray Vaughan. I'd never seen him. I never saw. This was before we had YouTube, right? So you couldn't just see what somebody looked like unless they were on like MTV or something like that. And he was not going to be on MTV. He wasn't that kind of an artist at that point. But I went to go see this video and we were just blown away. And it was not something that anybody else would be listening to. I remember bringing him a Rush DVD that somebody had left at my mom's house, and my mom was going to throw it away, and she gave it to me, and it was Rush. It was Moving Pictures, was it?
Moving Pictures, yeah.
Yeah, it was the album called Moving Pictures, and I was like, hey, you should listen to this band, and I created a monster because George became the biggest Rush fan that I've ever met. He owns everything, and from this one DVD that I had in my mom's house that I just brought to him, and I said, listen to this. And it was amazing. And same thing with the Who, Led Zeppelin. I remember going to George. This is how naive we were. Going up to George, he goes, "Yo, you heard of Led Zeppelin?" He's like, "No, I don't think so." And I was like, "Yo, every song that they have is really awesome. We need to start listening to Led Zeppelin. Of course, they've been around for at that point, almost 20 years, and we were just late to the game, or young. But to be able to look at something and say that's different than what everyone else is doing, but I want to do that. I don't care that it's different. I try to instill that also in my kids. Like I don't, just because everyone else is wearing a certain kind of thing, you don't have to dress that way. You don't have to, especially if it costs a lot of money. Um, like, thrift stores are just fine, man. No, but I mean, just making sure that they understand that they don't have to try to force themselves to fit in, that they should be their own, be an individual.
I think that's the whole thing. I mean, we are unique. We're supposed to be that way, and we shouldn't be necessarily conforming to everybody else's perception of how we should be or look or
Yeah.
sound. And
Right.
and then when you do that, then that's it. Then I mean, look, all the biggest artists, Michael Jackson, Prince, I mean, Madonna, they all had their own signatures. No one, I mean, we can go back in time.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, whether the Bee Gees or the Eagles or whatever, we can go back and further down. It's all, they had their own signatures, their own. I mean, you could not possibly duplicate them, even if you wanted to.
Right.
No,
There's
no,
so many people, that try to do that, those comebacks or those, like, tributes, but they will never be the original, right?
no.
And even some of these tributes are awesome. They're great, but they're not. They're not them. That's all there is, because it was not just their voice; it was the movement, it was
Yeah, it was
personality,
everything.
everything. So
Yeah.
it's a package. The dress code is different. The way they
Yeah.
moved was different. I mean, you got Kiss, you got Scorpions. I mean, and I mean, we can go to all different genres of music, country music. Everybody's different. They have their own flavors,
Hmm.
and as you said, the notes are the same. I mean, technically, just like any language, alphabet, or it's the same. Code.
Right.
It's the same stuff, but it's just played in different worlds parts. And it's the same kind of base, but
Right.
everybody uses it differently and enjoys it differently. And same thing in this world that we're in. Well, guys, I mean, I looked at the time and we just kind of passed
Wow.
that hour, just
Wow.
like it was not even funny. I mean, but it
Well,
was actually. I enjoyed it, man. This was fun.
yeah, this is awesome. Well, you got three professional podcasters here, so obviously we're talkers.
You know what? I have one rule: we don't cut podcasts or shows short just because we run out of time. We
Yeah, we
make the
have the
time.
same rule.
Yeah.
No, frankly, I mean,
Yeah.
like, this is not 60 minutes. No offense, 60 minutes is great. They do their own thing. But
Yeah.
this is the, again, that's one thing about what I wanted, is to have different ways of it could be, less or more. If the
Yeah.
topic's still going, we're going, and that's it. I mean, literally, we could not stop, but
Yeah, we good.
I know you guys have things to do and places to be, and it's getting late. But really, I enjoyed this discussion, folks, and
Yeah, this was awesome. I really appreciate it. I'm sure Jared does too,
Yes.
for your time, and we'd love to have you back on our show anytime. As a matter of fact, we'll schedule that soon to come back and have a conversation again, because we love it.
and we gotta help each other. Listen, you talked about fans. I'm a fan, of your topics and work and the shows. And by the way, I want to thank you, because the whole network doesn't exist without shows like yours, and your trust in me putting these things into the world, and being a platform and a venue for your work. And you know what? Again, I cannot do it without you guys and without all the other podcasters and different, guests and things like that we've been doing the last 4 years. I mean, over 1,000 shows is a pretty good, number.
Wow,
You know,
Wow.
that's
and
awesome.
and total of a couple hundred downloads that are confirmed. So it's not a lot, it's not millions, but you know what? I'm not, literally, this is actually our 4th-year anniversary in February. So that's when we began in
Nice.
February. Like January, we launched the radio, but the official first show that is visual audio was in February. And it's that kind of thing. And it's like yesterday, learned quite a bit. I've met some terrific people such as yourselves. And you know what? I am enjoying this world. And if people just get to immerse themselves in this, they'll just find themselves in a whole world. Talking about Star Trek, this is a community on its own, and it's just, by the way, it's worldwide.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
I've had guests from every continent, literally,
Wow.
and they're in different backgrounds too, and we've talked about all kind of topics you can imagine. We've covered them, and it is beautiful because you can literally learn from people all over the world. That's the other thing. We're not. I love what you said, George, that we can be anywhere. It hasn't happened in history,
Right.
but now it is. We can be with 10, 20,000 people at the same time. We can go live right now and people would watch all over the world, in that same concept. So it's amazing that we have the ability to do these things. And it's a shame that if we didn't take advantage of this and make it happen. So, so again, I'm gonna give you my hats, my chapeau thing to you guys both. I mean, the work you do is awesome, and keep it up. And I'm looking forward to the new, show and how it's gonna go all through. And of course, I'm here to support you as always. You are a standing, everlasting, evergreen, show, on the network, and you'll continue doing that. And here's the thing, I can tell you when we go and do our awards, because that's gonna happen. It's a matter of time only. And when that happens, your name is going to be in the hat, right? Just so you know. I mean, because I have to say something. There are a lot of people that started with me. I mean, not a lot of people, only a few people that started with me and stayed with me from the beginning and believed in that. George, you were actually the second one, believe it or not. That said, hey, you can put my show up there. It was you and Arts for the health of it. That those are the first ones, and then there was others that came along, immediately after that. But really, so there's only a few, like that I can say that these are like the first ones that came, stayed, and pretty much from the beginning. And so you guys made history, and whatever this network is going, you are part of that history. So again, I want to thank you from the heart of bottom of my heart, and really, I'm sure all the people
appreciate that.
No, you dudes, yeah, rock and roll, baby.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hurricane. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, thank you. Everything you do, I appreciate it, and looking forward to doing a lot more with you. So thank you.
Listen, we have a long way to go, and we're gonna make it work. So, well, that being said, any last words, folks, before we part our show today?
No, I just want to say thank you to Hurricane and George. Always a pleasure chatting. And if anybody has any questions, you can visit the artistblueprint.live and send us questions there, and we'll see if we can help you with whatever you need. And our show is every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's live, and you can watch the show on artistblueprint.live as well.
For your talent management, people that are interested, they can
for that, you can if you go to artistblueprint.live, you can get a hold of me there, and then that'll take you to. You can also go to jhstalentmanagement.com if somebody wanted to just reach out to me directly there. There's a calendar there, to have a conversation if you wanted to have a conversation.
And for me, it's if you have you want to see health topics, good health show and that type of thing. There's Wellness Talk. If you guys are just looking for the latest in health, healing, nutrition, and fitness and supplements and that type of stuff, you can go to georgebatista.com. That's where all the articles are. That's where all the shows are and everything. And questions for me, again, you can go right to the website and just contact me if you have any questions. And my show is typically on every week. It actually goes live at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and stuff like that. So and I plan to do some more shows. And again, I'm also part of the Artist Blueprint as well. So either way, you can contact me. And that's it.
There you go, folks. This is a wrap for our show with our dynamic duo. I mean, it was fun. I just had fun with you guys. I enjoyed it today. So thank you so much. And John Henry Soto, George Batista, thank you so much for being with us, for enlightening us and educating us about the work you do and the things that you are actually great things that you're doing out there. And that's it, folks. It's a wrap for today. I'm Hurricane H. We'll be talking soon. New day, new show, new topic.